Rocky Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we'll talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Electro, Diglett, Nidoran, Mankey, Venusaur, Rattata, Fearow, Pidgey.
Consider yourself warned. Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we break down the Rocky Horror Picture Show in excruciating detail, 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Leandra.
And I'm your other host, Kelly.
And today we don't have any guests, so let's go ahead and jump right on in. Kelly, what's going on?
We're on minute 46 of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. At the beginning of this minute, we have Frank coming out of the freezer with something behind his back, grinning. Rocky is banging frantically on the elevator cage that he's in, so it'll cut to him here and there. Eddie finally comes to a stop on his motorcycle. He gets off. Columbia kind of runs over to him, and he picks her up and spins around and sets her down on the motorcycle. Her legs are like kicking. And we do see a couple of Transylvanians dance in front of them in the foreground while this is happening, which I really liked. I was having trouble identifying one of them. The other one was that evil villain looking, the bald one.
Oh, Hugh Cecil?
Yes. And then we see Frank coming directly at the camera. Eddie starts screaming. We're getting back and forth like POV shots of this basically, or not POV, I guess, but very close shots on their face walking directly towards the camera. It cuts between Frank grinning, then Eddie screaming and backing away, and then Frank lifts a pickaxe. That's what was behind his back. Everybody starts screaming. It cuts to Columbia, absolutely wailing with both hands on her face. Frank misses with his first strike, which we'll put a pin in that and come back to it. And then he keeps following Eddie into the freezer and eventually pickaxes him to death, off screen, kind of, while everybody continues screaming, again, especially Columbia. Then Frank kind of staggers out very heterosexually, drops the pickaxe, and he says, "One from the vaults," in kind of like a sheepish way. The crowd loves that, though. They all laugh, which, okay, I guess. And then he extends his hands, which now his gloves are very bloody. He extends his hands and makes Magenta remove them kind of inside out. She kind of scrunches them up in her hands. And then Rocky starts banging on the elevator again, and Frank goes, "Oh, baby!" and starts to rush over there, and that's the end of the minute. Pretty action-packed minute.
Yeah, and it's the end of a song.
Oh, that's right. And what a song, right, Leandra? Your favorite one in the movie?
Have I ever alluded to that?
No, you have alluded to this being your least favorite song in the movie.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, have I ever accidentally said that this is my favorite song?
No.
It is. It's not my favorite. I don't feel like it fits with the rest of the of what's going on.
Yeah. I'm sure we've gone through this before, but a lot of people think this song was written for Meatloaf because it sounds like a classic Meatloaf song and sounds like nothing else in the show. But it's not. It was in the original before Meatloaf was ever cast in the stage show, so it's just one of those things.
Yeah. And I believe that, and I definitely have internalized that information. It just, it doesn't take away from my feeling that it feels kind of shoehorned in, and it's just, it's completely off vibe.
This has never been a favorite song of mine in the movie, and has, the entire lab scene, but this part in particular have always kind of dragged for me when I'm watching the movie. Even more so when I'm performing, unless, like, I have not had the great fortune to play Eddie on stage yet, but any other character, maybe Columbia has a little bit to do, but basically what I'm saying is the characters I play spend most of this song standing in a corner. Janet, Rocky, Magenta, Magenta gets to dance a little bit, but for the most part, they're just standing there. So because of that, it's always kind of a slow scene for me. And the song, I've gained a new appreciation for the song doing this minute and like really listening to the lyrics. Some of them are really kind of beautiful imagery, but it's also just, it's like you said, it doesn't feel like it fits. It feels like you could cut it whole cloth from the movie, except for Eddie getting murdered. You could cut all of this out and it would not matter,
It reminds me of, I've seen a couple of pre-shows now where it's just like different songs to convey the story, kind of as a jukebox sort of mini show. And they usually take Eddie's existence as an opportunity to pick a song that is like super off theme, and then just do like a couple bars of that, and then Frank smacks them over the head, and it's just ow, and then they die.
Yeah, and this is pretty much that.
So I don't want our listeners to think that I hate this song, because I do like it. I just don't like it within the movie.
Yeah, even as far as Meatloaf songs go, it's not one of my favorites, but I guess let's give it our rating though.
Out of 5?
Yeah.
Really? I got it right this time?
Yeah.
Okay, so out of 10 then. So
out of 100.
I would give this I'll give it a 2 out of 5. Because 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but 2 out of 5 kind of is.
It's not my least favorite song in the movie. There's a song later in the movie that is sometimes counted as a separate song and sometimes not. And if we are counting it as a separate song, then this is also not my second least favorite song in the movie. But it's really one of my least favorites. So I'm going to give it a 1.5.
Oh, wow.
I know.
I
also don't remember if I was allowing half ratings, but I am now.
You were. At least that's what I was doing, and you were going, no, stop. Possibly. I don't know.
No, I don't remember. I don't think, 5 is not that many. I should have made it out of 10 or 100 or something.
Out of 69.
Yeah. I think we've been more than fair to the song. I'm sorry, listeners. I know this is a huge hit with a lot of Rocky fans, and you may direct your criticism of our opinions to a 5-star Apple Podcast review.
Yeah.
5 stars, specifically. And then we'll listen to anything you have to say.
I think that that's only fair. We will read your 5-star review and go, wow, they are right. Hot Patootie is a better song than we accepted.
Yeah.
So, I have a major question about Eddie in this minute.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he go from confronting Frankenfurter to allowing himself to be backed back into the freezer, a place with no way out?
Yes. Also, I wanted to discuss, I believe his panicked reaction begins before Frank has even revealed that he's carrying a pickaxe.
Agreed.
Which is like, Frank has been here the whole time. You know what I mean?
So this actually segues nicely into, it looks like Eddie has pulled something out of one of his jean pockets and put something onto his right hand, and people are fairly sure that that is brass knuckles. So at the end of this, Eddie has finished his song, he put some brass knuckles on, and he's like, I'm going to find Frank and beat his face in. And then he turns around, and Frank is altogether too close.
Yeah, and it's also just like, I think Eddie, even with Frank being armed with a pickaxe, I feel like Eddie could take him.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the most efficient of weapons. So that's just my thought, is that Eddie gave up too quick.
It's like I understand that he just woke up from having part of his brain removed, so I'm giving him a bit of a pass there. But he has
Yeah,
enough like motor skills and kind of the body capacity to move that I feel like he should be able to put up more of a fight.
I agree. I mean, maybe it was just his fighting spirit that got transferred into Rocky. I have no idea, but do you think that I've always wondered why a pickaxe? Like what the joke was there? I guess, are we supposed to think that that's like what the brain surgery was performed with?
I don't.
Why was there a pickaxe back there?
So I was looking inside of the freezer while I was looking into this minute in particular, and
Hmm.
he pulls this pickaxe right off the wall next to what look like some super freezer burned like bottles of champagne. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there are like these little fake icicles that are hanging from the ceiling, and they're just like two-dimensional flat on maybe plastic, but it looks like something that maybe an elementary school art teacher would have their students do. So
Yeah.
this is just like a very weird freezer to begin with. Also, you don't really see it in this minute, but the inside of the door to the freezer, it's lined with cheetah print. So, like, there's a pickaxe and champagne and fake ice and just so much just nonsense going on in this freezer. So, I don't know what the pickaxe is there for, but possibly for a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, also in the freezer, at the end of the song, there's this wonderful like fog effect that they have in the freezer itself, and it slowly
Yeah.
reveals that Eddie's dead, which I thought was like a really nice little thing, and good on Meatloaf for not visibly breathing during that bit.
You know, I have another compliment for
Yeah.
Meatloaf. After the saxophone gate from last minute, where there's a saxophone solo being played by not Meatloaf while he's riding the motorcycle. Um, During the chorus, when he's on stage lifting Columbia onto the motorcycle, you hear Meatloaf's voice very clearly doing the Hot Patootie.
Yeah.
He was on screen, and at first I was like, he's not singing that. Oh my god, like that's another little slip up. But in rewatching, he is mouthing those words if you watch very closely. So even though many people were not giving that attention to detail, Meatloaf or somebody directing him or something told him to make sure that he was singing, and they synced it up correctly, which is frankly kind of shocking. you know?
Yeah. I mean, he showed up and he was like, I'm a professional. I'm going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to have a great time doing it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I thought that at first I was all ready to call out that goof, but no.
I like in that moment also when he's lifting Columbia and she's doing the kicking, she's flailing like a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
It looks
Mm-hmm.
like she's like a hair's width from kicking Lindsey Ingram just in the face as she's
Yeah.
getting onto the motorcycle, and I'm just like, ah.
In general, I also just really like the camera work in the murder scene. I struggled a little bit in my summary with what to call that, but the close tracking shots of the face of each of them was a really fun. I guess it is kind of I think it's meant to be like a POV, your Meatloaf, POV, your Frank. You know what I mean? Like back and forth. Whatever that is, though, I thought it was a really entertaining and like silly way to shoot that exchange.
I agree. I'm actually putting in my notes, POV, you're Meatloaf and you're getting killed.
I mean, if we ever started a TikTok, I think that has potential. Also, now that I have complimented everybody, I would like to complain that everything about the blood situation in this murder makes no sense.
Yes, very much so.
When they cut away, and I can partially explain this, but when basically Frank doesn't actually get a pickaxe into Meatloaf until he's pretty deep into the freezer.
Yeah.
But then when Frank comes back out of the freezer, there's a bloody spot like way out there in front of like Riff and Magenta where he initially hit the ice. So perhaps the ice is bleeding. But also, I have no idea how it got all over his gloves like that unless he just started digging around in there before he came out of the freezer. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I would love to be able to explain that to you, but I feel like Meatloaf would have to be just a sentient, fully full bag of blood.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like I said, I can partially explain the incorrect blood splatters on the ground with some information from the Richard O'Brien and Patricia Quinn commentary. Because Richard O'Brien mentioned that they had to shoot that part of the killing scene again. They didn't get the shot or something, and it was like way later. Meatloaf wasn't there. That's why at that point you cannot see him anymore. And they just like had to go and buy some pink tiles and like make a little pink tile backdrop. That's also why you only see it from that angle at that point.
Oh, that's really cute.
They're not even still in the lab. So anyway, they recreated that. So maybe at that point they were just kind of like haphazardly throwing blood on the ground. You know what I mean?
I also really like in that moment when you see Frank, there's this, it almost feels like an old Hollywood tableau. It's like Vincent Price giving a glare sort of look. It's
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it. This is mad scientist Frankenfurter.
This is like the top of Frank's arc. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like this is when he's on top of the world in the movie.
Yeah, even though something has gone wrong, he was able to quickly fix it.
Well, and like he's still got the crowd on his side.
I don't 100% agree. So I actually have a note.
Right.
The reactions across the board from people as this man just gets murdered in front of them, I think is actually pretty varied. Like, Frank is obviously exhaustedly returning to the room, and Riff seems, I guess, stoic, but Magenta just looks annoyed. But there's this really great bit where you see Annabelle Levinton sharing a quick, just like glance over with Hugh Cecil, and they have this like, wow, we really just witnessed a murder sort of look. And Columbia, she's obviously just like wailing, but there's just this incredibly awkward silence until one from the vaults, and then you hear some laughter, and I feel like it's more of an awkward laughter of like, okay, well, I just saw a murder.
I guess that's true. At that point in the evening, you're gonna laugh at anything that guy has to say, right?
Yeah, or
like,
else you're next.
Oh, you're so droll. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Brad and Janet in this minute at all, but you don't hear anything from them. So I'm sure that they're kind of in the, wow, that person who was alive 30 seconds ago is no longer alive. And I saw that. This will be the worst thing that I see all day.
In future minutes, it still, to me, kind of seems like the Transylvanians are loving Frank, but...
Oh, yeah. By, like, less than 2 minutes from now, they are super okay with everything.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I mean, they're something... cultists of Frank or something.
Transylvanian acolyte.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever brought this up, but I'm curious as to what is behind the white curtain in this operating lab. You see it like in fairly good close-up when Eddie is putting Columbia back on the motorcycle. and it just looks like there's wherever the cords that the mic and the speaker go, like whatever that's hooked up to. But I'd love for it to be like this extended antechamber sort of thing where there's like a green room. And when it's not an operating lab, it's just like a miniature theater inside of this castle for when you're putting on impromptu like itty bitty tiny theater for your friends.
Yeah, I mean, there's a theater somewhere.
Yeah. Oh God,
Not
this is the one
not
for
there,
stand up.
but oh no. Well, I mean, you already mentioned improv, which is yeah, no.
Only one of us has training in improv.
You ever take a class in your senior year of college because you need more credits, but you take the class that you think you're most likely to get an A in, and then you don't even get an A in it? Because that was me taking improv in my senior year of college. And I got a B.
Oh, the
That was
shame.
bullshit. Story for another time. It was not due to my improv skills, which are not great, but I would still say we're in the 99th percentile of that class. No hate to former Improv 101 classmates who may be listening to the podcast.
That kind of reminds me, while I do most of the emceeing at our show, and if the audience got down there early enough and I was just kind of vamping for time before I wanted to get the show started, I'd kind of like try and talk with the audience, maybe get a little bit of like fun improvisational conversation with them. And at one point somebody was like, "Oh, do you do comedy?" And I went, "No." And they said, "Okay, well you shouldn't." And I died. I fell over deceased. My soul left my
I need to
body.
get that audience member's number. Oh my god. I will say though, Leandra has had to vamp sometimes for a really long time when they couldn't get the movie started or whatever, and she is great at it. She has somehow kept a crowd entertained for, I would say, upwards of 30 minutes when the movie was supposed to have started already. So,
Yeah, I thought that I was doing good. Like people were like, "Yeah, I'm vibing with this, but not for this person."
that's pretty funny. It's kind of like how somebody recently informed Leandra that she has done Rocky 1,000
And I
times,
was like,
which
"Shit, really?"
make her like 70 years old. It's not true. This person's math was clearly wrong because, I mean, they haven't even known her long enough to like to have like they haven't known her for most of her Rocky career, so some calculation went wrong because that's like if you do 2 shows a month every single month, which isn't always the case, that's 24 per year. So
So I actually sat down with Oscar and kind of walked through how many shows we've probably done, and taken into consideration that when we both started doing Rocky, we were doing it at least once a week, if not twice. So we both have like over 500, but it's going to take another several years to get to 1,000, and I'm not there yet. And
I mean, if you're at 500 now and you average 2 per month, which I think is
we do
the most you
27.
could hope to average.
We do
Huh?
27 a year because we've got the 2 a month and then the 3 extra in October.
Right, but you occasionally miss some. And occasionally there's going to be situations where like the theater's closed or whatever.
Sure.
So let's split the difference and say 25 per year. That is still 10 years to do 250, so that'd be 20 more years before you would hit 1,000.
I'm excited for that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you live that long, because again, you're nearly 70 years old.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's a great bit, I think, for everybody.
So, those are all of my notes. Do you have anything that you want to go over before we get into callbacks?
Nope, I think I'm ready for callbacks.
All right. I think you have more than I do for this one.
All right, well, let's see if that's true. I have frequently heard when he is killing or directly after killing, Frank really knows how to pick his friends. Yeah, classic joke. Before he says one from the vaults, many people will say, "What's your favorite Grateful Dead album?" I believe that's a classic.
I do counter that one with trick question, they all suck.
Yes, and that is a great response. In general, that line in the movie sucks. It's not a good joke. I'm sorry to say it. Then let's see. What do you do with used rubbers? This is when he extends his gloves and then somebody will say, turn them inside out and use them again, because Magenta turns them inside out as she's removing them from Frank's hands. And I've this one's falling out of favor, which I guess makes sense because it is a very old reference at this point. But when Magenta takes the gloves off, I've heard "Here, put these in OJ's yard" a lot, which is although it is becoming a very dated reference, I do find it funny.
It still gets a chuckle.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that's one of those things that is going to be like a timeless reference, probably. At least for a while.
Yeah.
And then this one really mostly happens in the next minute, but when he begins to bang on the elevator at the end, you begin chanting, "My dick is stuck, my dick is stuck," implying that Rocky's dick is stuck in the elevator. And we'll hear the conclusion to that next minute.
That's nice.
I was going to ask if we have any Irish-related callbacks for him saying, "Oh, baby."
I think that what he says is, "Oh, my baby." So I think that because there's the "my" in there.
Is there a "my"?
I think so.
Let me listen to it. I've always heard, "Oh, baby." But I will listen. Regardless, I can't think of anything that would fit, even if it's "Oh, baby," but I thought I'd check because we get it for "Oh, really" and "Oh, honey." And
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're a clever bunch, the Rocky community.
Yep. Hilarious people, really. So what did I miss?
So there's this classic that I don't particularly like, but everybody, I think, has heard it at least 1,500 times. It's "a greaser from the freezer like a bat out of hell." And it's just something that you say right after one from the vaults, because you're kind of referencing other albums.
Right.
And then there's one before that, while Frankenfurter is murdering Eddie with the pickaxe, that I like because I'm really trying to make it a thing. It's not a thing.
Okay.
It's,
okay.
"Hey girls, my name's Alaska. I got a tiny little question to ask ya." I think that's funny. I want that to be funnier than it is, and I get that.
I think it has potential, at least for niche appeal.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to diss the jokes and puns, but I've always been like, why does he say "one from the vaults"? I get it, but it's like, why say it, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. It's a real thinker.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I had.
So, if that's all that you have, and that's all that I have, I guess that means that we're wrapping up with...
Who's driving the plane?
Whoa!
Now.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out.
Brad and Janet, the servants gone to a distant planet. Whoa. At the late night double feature picture show, I wanna go. To the late night double double feature picture show.